It's a pleasure for me to be here with this so international and different audience today, in this afternoon. And the topic of this lecture, Metaversity, it's, I suppose, strange. Indeed, I don't know exactly what Metaversity is. But a couple of weeks ago, when Carmelo called me and invited me to this lecture, and I asked, what about to talk? I say, talk what you like about university. And the day I was with a friend of mine for lunch, and I asked, give me some new words to talk about the future of university. And he suggested me Metaversity. I never heard before. So this is a question, Metaversity. And when I come back in my office, I ask ChatGPT about what Metaversity is, because this is how we learn in this way. So, and ChatGPT, I ask, what is Metaversity in the internet age? And ChatGPT gives this answer. The Metaversity is a term that has been used to describe a hypothetical, this is important, future version of higher education that would be more integrated with emerging technologies and the internet. So this was my goal, to describe this. I never, nothing before, but it was important. So I decided to talk about what is university and how can university change in this changing world, because now the world is changing for the society, it's changing because of this global community, and it's changing because each of us is continuously pushed to change the way of life and of thinking. So I've divided my talk in three topics. The first is the value of creative uselessness. This is university now. Okay. What is important is that we do this not because it's useful, but because we like. Okay, but should be creative. And the second, what in the future about that? That is the decline of disciplines. This is an important topic, very much discussed in our university now. And the third is the selection of sources. This has been prepared with a good friend of mine, which is Professor Andrea Moro, that teaches in my university. So let me start with the value of creative uselessness. I want to start with a quote given by Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman has been a curious scientist that won a Nobel Prize in physics in 1965, and he said that research is like sex. Sure, it may give some practical results, but that's not why we do it. Okay, this is clear. It's a physics indeed, but I translate in research because we are not physicists but researchers. And this is an important point. It's a starting point, but should not be the final point. Professor Marabello is teaching cinema's history of. This is remembered, I suppose, as the first ever done movie in the history is 1895, and Auguste Lumière, you know, the Lumière brothers that invented the cinematography, he said that my invention, the motion of picture camera, can be exploited as a scientific curiosity, but apart from that, it has not commercial value whatsoever. So it's difficult to understand what can be the usefulness and the application of something that comes for curiosity or for pleasure, let me say. This man is Stephen Sasson, and he was the man that invented the digital camera. He, at that period, at the end of 70s, he was working in Kodak. Kodak was the greater company in the production of film for pictures. And they did not understand that digital camera killed the traditional camera with film. And when he proposed this digital camera, Kodak management said, print has been with us for over 100 years. No one was complaining about prints. They were very inexpensive, and so why would anyone want to look at their picture on a television set? Indeed, now, who would like to have a camera with film? So it's difficult to have a preview of what we are doing now and the possible utility. And this is also a curious story, is the story of Alexander Bell. You know that Alexander Bell invented at the same time of Antonio Meucci the telephone, but Alexander Bell was a very clever and entrepreneur, and he has a great success also in the market. And he invented and patented, this is the original patent of the first telephone of Alexander Bell at the end of the 19th century. And when he realized the first functioning prototypes, he went to the mayor of New York because he needed money to realize the network and of telephone. And the mayor of New York, he tested with a phone, said, beautiful, charming, but what can I do with it? Because no one was used to talk with telephone. Why? What is the use? And Bell said, you can call all the city of the United States. And he said, why should do it? I don't know anyone outside of New York. So you understand that also the need sometimes is very far from the possibility to offer new technologies. But this is not why we had to stop to think outside of what we need. Which is the major role of research? Because in university we teach, of course, but we teach what we do. So we teach, we say, at the cutting edge of knowledge. Okay, so we make research. Which is the role of research? Why a country should invest money in research? Because we suppose that research is one of the principal engines of progress. Progress means quality of life of people, citizens, and so on. There are a lot of different indicators about the progress and the quality of life in different countries, for instance. And we can, I want to address two evidences. One is clean water, that's changing completely the expectancy of life in human being. And you know that now we make showers with clean water. And a smartphone that give us very new inabilities to talk and to be connected independently of where and when you want to do that. If you look from data from the World Bank say that since in this period 2000-2016, the percentage of people that can have clear water in the world increased from 16 to 17%, while people that have smartphones move from almost 15 to more than 100%. This is an important indicator of how people and country invest in goods, let me say. If you look at the same data in the sub-Saharan countries, you can see that clean water moved from 20% of population to almost 30% of population. 1/3 of people have clean water availability, while smartphone reached 80%, almost 80%. This is interesting because it's also how can we address our capability to use knowledge to improve the quality of life and the progress, which is the indicators. Why this? So I ask again ChatGPT about it. it's a question difficult. And I say, what are primary goods? Because we suppose that, firstly, in the ranking, countries should invest in primary goods. So I ask ChatGPT, is a smartphone is a primary good? And he answered, no. No, a smartphone is typically not considered a primary good. Primary goods are typically considered to be basic necessities such as food, clothing, shelter, and water that are necessary for survival, blah, blah, blah. So I give another question. Why sub-Saharan countries invest more in communication than in clear water? And this is interesting, in my opinion, the answer. There could be several reasons why sub-Saharan countries may invest more in communication technology rather than. First, economic priorities. The government of this country may prioritize investment that can drive economic growth. This is not opinion, because ChatGPT has no opinion at all. It's just a synthesis of the most frequent information they can have on the net. Immediate needs, this is critical. Providing access to clean water can be a long-term and expensive undertaking. So we prefer with something soon. But investment is not something that you need soon. Investment is something that you have to plan for the future. And lack of resources, I don't agree about, but donor funding. This is important. Donor funding, so money depends on where money comes from in terms of investment. So here we talk about freedom of research, a freedom of application. We are not free if we depend on money. This is another question that face the problem of freedom. We believe, and this is a starting point, that research is important point to improve the progress. And if make research in a country that improve and increase progress, finance back research. So this is a common considered as a positive feedback circle of research and progress in a country. But it's important to note that it's not so easy to demonstrate that research produced that progress because of different, one terms is time, the other is which is the role of some knowledge in some field with respect to the progress. So it's not so easy. And we, in the last 20 years, considered that we had to demonstrate and to create this progress through two other points. One is innovation or innovative progress that collect different new knowledge in order to solve practical problems of the society, and market, which is a place in which the innovation reach the society. Market is not necessarily connected with money, but with the availability of a solution for the society, from people. And to perform this path from research to progress, we need first a capability to select, transform and transfer knowledge, because knowledge as a raw materials is very difficult to be used. Should be transformed, should be produced something useful. And this is a selection, transformation, and transfer in innovation process, and the market, in some terms, should provide also money with progress, because money is crucial need for making good research. So there are these points: understanding, applying, and improving, and the tools. The tools are transformation and money. So this is a scheme, the general scheme of how research play a role in our society. Let me say, I'm a professor, university professor, so I like to things not necessarily because are useful for someone. And this is called blue sky research. Again, I went on the net to have some information on what blue sky research is. And blue sky research is defined by Wikipedia as scientific research, where scientific refer to the method, not to the field. Scientific research in domains where real-world applications are not immediately apparent. Okay? Let me say very, very easy, theoretical physics, something mathematics in itself, as such. It has been defined as research without a clear goal or curiosity-driven. And again, because of the inherently uncertain return on investment, blue sky projects are politically and commercially unpopular and tend to lose funding to more reliable, profitable, or practical research. This is, again, is a term of research policy in a country. It's very important. It's a research policy, and is something that, in some cases, is in the framework of evaluation of research and research expectancy by who finance them. It's important to know that the application, the so-called usefulness, is not among the premises of research, but it can be among the consequences. This is important, because unless, which is the reason you made that research, if you find something that can be useful, it's your responsibility to translate this knowledge for the progress of the society. Okay? The scientific publication is not the way to do that. Let me show you an example, very, very easy and very known. This is an example of the history of the generation of laser light. Laser light is something that now we use commonly every day, because we use a telephone that the flux of information through the fiber, optic fiber, and so on. And everything is so. This is laser light, and when you pay, use laser light and so on. The first to define that the law have some properties was Max Planck, Nobel Prize in 1901. And then you can here have a list of people that improve the knowledge about light. Albert Einstein, again, Nobel Prize, Alfred Kastler, Nobel Prize. But the first realization, practical realization of laser light, what we know now, the red one, has been obtained in the 1960 by Theodor Maiman. So 60 years last from the idea that exists and the capability to produce it. But in the 60s, they produced a laser light without any application again. Because we now use laser light. But from 60, it lasts 60 years. So 120 years. What now about laser light? These are the patents that has been applied having the word laser in the title in the decades from 50 to the last one. You can see that now, in the last decades, more than 130,000 patents has been applied with the word laser in the title. So is one of the most larger amount of innovation based on something that has been defined from research more than 100 years ago. Okay, these are a large quantity of new technologies that will depend on the application of laser. But what is, in this sense, research? Because we talk about research, it's easy, but what exactly research is? I want to tell you this story. This is a story of Carl Gauss. Carl Gauss has been one of the most famous mathematicians. He lived between the 18th and 19th century in Germany. With a very, very fantastic genius of the period. This is 10 marks. 10 marks doesn't exist anymore. but when it exists, they have the drawing of the picture of Gauss. And the story referred to Gauss at the year of 9 age old, 9. He went to what we call now primary school. And one morning, the teacher went to the class and gave a problem to the students because he has to manage some jobs. And he supposed that that problem will require some hours, 2 hours, 1 hour is enough to be solved, which is the problem for people, children at 9 years old. The problem was make the sum of the first 100 whole numbers. It's easy problem. Everyone is able to do that. 1 plus 2, 3, plus 3, 6, plus 4, 10, and so on. You can proceed. It's easy. But it's long. And suppose at that period, without any machine or without probably no biro, pen, so I don't know, it was complex for 9 years old. Carl Gauss, after less than 10 minutes, went to the desk and say, I'm finished. It's not possible that period they have bacchetta, so bacchetta in English, by the way, you understand. You are joking me. No, I have the solution. Which is the solution? The solution is 5,050. It's correct. How? You already know. No, I calculated. How do you succeed? Well, I noted that if you write the same 100 numbers on the reverse order, and you make the sum by column, you ought to obtain always 101. So if you multiply 101 per 100 and divide it by 2, you obtain results. You understand? It's not so difficult, after I explain. But suppose nothing to know before, okay? So, genius. The question is, what Gauss did? A new method or a new problem? A new method. Why one had to address to a new method if you know the method? Each of us began 1 plus 2 is normal. Because he faced another problem, which is the faster way to do that, which is another problem. Not how to do. How to do as faster as possible. And he found a new solution. This is not scientific research. This is solution of the problem. When this solution of the problem became research, when you abstract a generalization. So you find a general method to solve each of the problem that have the same form. So you are able to make the sum of every sequence of number, and this now is used in our computer, of course. So scientific knowledge is abstraction, is not the solution. The solution is the experiment. We make experiment in many of our experimental field, but the experiment is not the solution in itself, but the abstraction of the solution to generalize a model of that. So scientific research is done by disciplines. This is known because you make the progress of disciplines. You are a physician, you are a historian of art, you are what you like. And you produce models. This is knowledge. Probably this came about scientific goals, solution of problem, curiosity, but I don't care about why. What is important is that in some cases, the model can be useful, in some cases. And you can perform the so-called knowledge transfer that face some problem or some need of the society in order to have a development of some new solution and have an impact, a positive impact on society. Okay, so it's not on the premises, it's on the consequences. So scientific research is independent, is disciplinary, is financed with public money because no one wants to finance something that can be completely useless. The question is that if we talk, this is what is now. But what about the disciplines? Because we say research is disciplinary. more wide. I found recently, preparing my talk in the inauguration day of my university, I found a very interesting website in which a colleague from University of Geneva found 255 groups of presentation of how the world can be faced with culture, with research, starting from Aristotle to our days. And I prepared just for that. This is Aristotle, 350 before Christ. He calls sciences divided in theoretical, practical, and productive. That refers, in some cases, to the method, to the object, not to the... And then theoretical is metaphysics, mathematics, and so on. So this is a sort of tree of representation. This is Dante. He calls philosophy theoretical and practical, again, physics, mathematics, metaphysics, and so on. This is Giambattista Vico, science, theology, metaphysics, physics, mathematics, different approaches to describe how the human being is able to face the nature and the human thinking with method and knowledge. Till this last century, in which Piaget decided that we cannot face by single disciplines, but merging disciplines. And he defined group of completely, let me say, different for method, which are science, logique, mathématique, physique, biologique, and physico-sociologique. But neither of these has a priority with respect to the other, like as before. They all together allow to face and solve probably problem. So I ask again ChatGPT and say, do you prefer the knowledge classified in disciplines or combining disciplines? You say, as an language model, I don't have personal preferences. It's polite, of course, very polite. But I can tell you that both approaches to organizing knowledge have their benefit and drawbacks. First, disciplinary knowledge classification involves organizing knowledge into distinct academic or professional fields, such as mathematics, physics, history, sociology. This approach can provide a clear and structured framework for understanding and learning specific subject area. Is what we do normally. Is good, is proper, depending on the goal. If the goal is improve the disciplines, you have to perform research and disciplines. On the other hand, combining disciplines involves integrating knowledge from multiple fields to create a more holistic understanding of a particular topic or problem. This approach can lead to innovation and discovery of new solutions of bringing together diverse perspectives. So now, each of us had to face a very complex world and problems. And complexity means approaching, which is the role of something that belongs to mathematics in order to change something that belongs to history. The mathematicians say, nothing, I don't care. Also the historians say, I don't care. But the real world care. So if you look back at this picture, and we represent that the development means project, and the application means production of something, the disciplinary approach is that I found something in my discipline, so I want to solve a project with exactly that, and to go again to the impact society. This is very rare. It's very rare. What you have to do is to combine. And the combination means that people need to talk to each other and to understand different approaches and point of view. And so again and again, you have to live in a so-called open mind research and open mind teaching. This is something, let me say, new that we had to face, and I applaud to your approach and also to my approach to this difference. This is an example. We started last year with a new PhD course in sustainable development and climate change. there's no disciplines that define how to face the problem. So we have six different curricula that goes from mathematics to law, from philosophy to medicine, because no one has a priority on that. But the priority is to link together different approaches in order to solve the problem. This year we started with the 6 curricula that approaches the 18 ERC fields and obtaining 134 research projects. No one of these belong to a discipline. But it may belong to a couple or 3, it depends. 52 universities, so a very large and experimental attempt to face a global challenge with people coming from different background and knowledge. The third and the last point discussed with Andrea Moro is the selection of sources. This is critical. This is critical because we face this every day in the classroom. Because when I teach my students, I see that they are looking on the net if I say something correct or not. But I am correct, or the answer of the net is correct. This is a question. This is a question. I quote my friend. True cultural changes are often imperceptible, very slow and rare. This is a normal improvement. However, there are cases in which everything suddenly and radically changes. An example of this was the invention of the printing machine. Within a few years, access to knowledge became independent of the production of single text, and the available sources multiply in an imaginable quantity compared to the previous eras. Okay, the Gutenberg and the printing machine changed completely the way of teaching and learning, because we are able to obtain books, while before the book was in that library or that one other library. So it's a very important way of changing how to teach, how to create culture. Gutenberg in 1453, from manuscript to printed book. Today, the changes shows no lesser magnitude, and its influence has a broader impact on everything related to the world of culture, research and education, and on the entire society. For the first time, the central aspect of scientific research and education is no longer the difficulty of finding information, rather than the task of learning how to select the relevant few pieces of information from the mass of accessible ones. In a connected world, we are transitioning from the art of collecting to that of discarding. And this is something in which we are not prepared. It's something new. Okay, this is the picture of a very important old library where people went to study. And this is, I asked a history of cinema for you. And I found in 0.95 seconds, 0.95 seconds, less 1 second, 4,220,000 documents. So normally, I suppose everyone look at the first 10, perhaps. How long you go in the deep? 10, 20? So this is our type of selection. The first that Google present, okay? So the easy access to information will be the end of the university. The answer is no, of course. But of course, I suppose that who wants the end of university? No one. I quote these 2 sentences. The first is, it's not so very important for a person to learn facts. For that, he does not really need a college. He can learn them from books. This is almost 70 years ago. The value of an education in a liberal arts college is not the learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think something that cannot be learned from textbook. First. The second, from the same person, is, I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the condition in which they can learn. This was Albert Einstein. What is important is, let me say, the teacher. Is not what he teach. I know, I am a teacher, of course. So, now, how is the world today compared to when I studied mechanical engineer myself in the 70s? Okay, I'm graduating mechanical engineer in 81. So I studied in the 70s. Cars are electrics. I never heard during my study electric cars. Phone take pictures and serves a map in the city. Never heard about that. The Italian lira no longer exists and banknotes are no longer used for payment. Money does not exist. One can die from COVID. We mostly do everything online and live in smart cities. Smart cities is something. Metaversity. Vital organs can be replaced. The United States had a black for president, not yet a woman for president, but I suppose soon. Okay, so I did not need fact or information. I need methods to face the changing world. And now the changing world change much more faster than once, that in my period. I'm old, of course. The method is the same, and the capacity to integrate information creatively make both yesterday and today the value. The value is not what you know, but how can you able to use what you know. The real value is the teaching of the master. The change, the world has changed a lot during the last century. Much more faster than they expected. Now we know, but they didn't know. And I want to finish this talk with this story. This is again Charlie Chaplin. I use something that Carmelo, I suppose, knows very well. But Charlie Chaplin and Albert Einstein, two geniuses. Albert Einstein, let me say, theoretical physics. Okay, the research of Albert Einstein probably is not useful. And Charlie Chaplin directed an actor of silent movie because he likes silent movie. And when we met for the first time in 1931 in Los Angeles at the premiere of City Lights, that I suppose is the last silent movie of Charlie Chaplin, Einstein said that to Chaplin, what I most admire about your art is your universality. You don't say a word, yet the word understands you. And Chaplin replies, it is true, but your glory is even greater. The whole world admires you, even though they don't understand a word of what you say. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Belgium, and I was wondering how ChatGPT could be used in universities. Yeah, I mean, if it could be used, and how?
I really don't know, indeed, but yesterday afternoon I went to a meeting discussing about ChatGPT, because I think that everything that exists should be used. Why not? Depends on the use that, or what expect about the use of that. I use during the last weeks I used a lot ChatGPT just to understand what it is and how it works. And in some cases, ChatGPT give answer or give perspective very similar to what I already did in a very shorter time. It's a fantastic one. I read on a newspaper recently an article in which was Federico Rampini that tried to ask GPT to write an article on political in China. I don't remember exactly. Okay, China, and he found let me say a good article. Perhaps he said I can write something better, but I spent 5 days, and he gave me the answer in 2 minutes. So it depends what you want. You prefer velocity? You prefer to be precise? What do you prefer? But this is for what is easy. I tried to ask ChatGPT this question: which things are on the sun? And here we have a good question. There is oxygen, hydrogen, very high temperature. If you ask what there's not on the sun, this is not easy to answer. What is not? And you say that there's not some black holes, for instance, because you refer to the environment. But I suggest that you can find a hamburger and you never say, but probably also if you ask me what is not on the sun, I give not this question. So the question is a fantastic tool. I think that the use is probably interesting and useful. But again, you should have the capability to select, because what now we have is too large amount of information, and the selection is what makes difference from a cultural brain. And so please use it. And because if you know it, you can use properly. It's very dangerous to use without knowing it, as everything.
Any other question? So it seems to us that.
Hello, I'm an electronic engineer. I work in Bank of Italy, but now I changed my job completely. My question is about the future of university. What do you think about the online university? All activities online. Because at the MIT in Boston, there is the university where people can follow all the lessons, have different level, because not all people start on the same level like in Italy, for example. They can choose different paths to progress their studies. And all the lesson and the information, documentation is available when you need and when you progress in this path. And there is a very nice interview about, there is a futuristic interview, when an old man talked to the nephew how was the previous university. And the many features of the online university are in favor of this kind of method. The setting of different university. It was very curious because the universal university as we live is still anchored on the old model. What do you think about this? What are the counter fact about this progress?
Well, the question is that if we believe that the role of university in teaching is to be in class, or if university teaching is something more than to be in class. because I can teach. Now I gave you so half an hour, 1 hour of lecture. Probably if you were online and listened to me, it's exactly the same. Exactly not, indeed. But anyway, for me, for instance, because I look your faces, otherwise. But university is not lessons. It's something more, in my opinion. And discussion with colleagues, discussion with professors, going in the library completely different from internet. It's something that enable you to think and not only to read. And this is very important. In my opinion, there is a great difference between in presence and online. This is not because online is not a good way to teach or to learn, but is a different one. So I don't want to compare the two. One is living an experience. The other is attending to a lesson. Finished. This is my personal opinion, of course.
Can have a virtual communication, can compare, discuss. There are different social tools, and the young people are very most used to use these tools.
I think that to be here, and I live in Milano, I came here to give this lesson instead to give my house, and for me it's an experience. I also learn coming here. But anyway, I prefer to travel than to look at the television of some. So it depends. This is my personal opinion. I think that many people think like me, but it's a personal opinion. My believing is that university is not lecturing in a room, is also lecturing in a room. And all that is not lecturing in the room is loosened online. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for your lecture. Thank you for questions. My question is about the future of university. How do you see it? Because what we see nowadays, I think kind of decrease of not credibility, but people started to be disappointed at university education. And yeah, online technologies arises, and we in general, like there are curious people, there are people who just want to get some knowledge and skills and be successful. But how do you see the future, like taking all this together? Thank you.
Well, I will retire in the next 3 years, so my future is very short. But it's strange because you have seen during the last couple of years that the credibility of university, and in particular not of university but of professors, because it's something similar like the church and the priest, you know. Someone say I am Christian, I'm religious, but the priest, and in our case, but the professors. And so, I believe that during a COVID period, everyone asked only professors how to solve or to face the problem. This was very curious, in my opinion, because they all over the world ask professors how to face the problem, and the not precise capability to select the professor has been a problem, because they ask only professor of microbiology or to face the problem. But the problem was not only a problem of microbiology, it was a problem in the society, for the energy, for a lot of problems. So again, I believe that we must stop to think that university is useful to solve the problem. University should be useful to put in evidence the problem in advance, should be able to prepare people to take decision on something that was not expected. If we continuously want to solve the problem that are now on the shelf, we lose any credibility, because this is now our role. University is an investment. Think that we prepare students in almost 5 years, and the world in 5 years changes. So when we start, we do something that probably is not useful after 5 years. So why you ask me to prepare something in, let me say, in ChatGPT, perhaps in next, now everyone wants that. We should have the force to convince that our role is not to solve the actual problem, but to solve the future problem. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. In some cases, I think it's also impossible, because no one wants to know something that is in the future. Okay, so, but this is my opinion. This is my opinion. Then I work for everyday life, of course. But I'm not university, I'm just a professor.